what's going on, buddy? I've just been watching some of your videos, and first off, let me start by saying I love watching your videos. I've seen like, I don't sound like I'm marking out for you or whatever, but I've seen like all your videos. You're like my favorite shooter on here. I really enjoy watching your stuff. You're very intelligent. I really enjoy watching all your stuff. But some of the questions that you've answered, some more recently than others, um, you haven't answered them wrong by any means, because this is all opinions. Um, but maybe this is just an alternative perspective. I don't know. They're just different ways that I would have answered them, and I mean, if people were asking me questions, then I would have answered them. But whatever. Dazzle 280 asked you what Bryan Danielson title defense was your favorite from 2006, and you said the Nigel McGuinness Bryan Danielson unified match was your favorite title defense. And don't get me wrong, that was a very good match. That was very good, but I felt like it was one of the most overrated matches. And don't anyone who enjoyed that match, don't get angry again. Wrestling's all about opinions and what you like and what you dislike. But I felt like that match was very overrated. Like, I mean, it was a good match, don't get me wrong, but it seemed like at the very end, if I remember, I haven't seen it in a while, like since it first came out. I might go back and rewatch it, but it seemed like at the very end, like Nigel was really picking up some steam, and he was getting these punches in, the crowd was getting really into it, and then it ended. Like, I mean, and I felt like if they'd have went 5 more minutes beyond that point, it would have been a lot better. That would have been a much better ending. But it was a very good match. Michael Myers 555 asked you what was the best match of this year, and you said Joe and Morishima, which was very good also. And you hadn't seen at the time you made the video, you hadn't seen Joe and Nigel yet, and I just want to put out there to everybody that Joe and Nigel was a very good match. I really enjoyed it. It was very good, and I hope you get a chance to check that out soon, as well as anybody else who hears this. That was a very, very good match. And this is another thing I just want to throw out there. Wrestle Junkie asked you about the Michael Cena match, and you said that was your favorite match of the year. And this is something I just want to throw out there. When the Good Times, Great Memories DVD comes out, it should be out soon, probably sometime early to mid-June. It should be coming out. I was at the show, and the Briscoes versus Motor City Machine Guns match, I guarantee you, I'll stake my reputation on it. I was there, and if it comes across as good on DVD as it did live, that'll jump to the top of everybody's list. That was an insane match. It was very good. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's not on DVD yet, so no one's seen it unless you were at the show, but it was a very good match. I want everybody to go out and get that DVD, and I hope everybody does, because that's not one you want to miss. That whole show was pretty good. And then Fred RS05, who was a very nice name, I like his name, asked you the top 5 assholes out of character in wrestling, and you said Vince, Hulk, and Bischoff, and then it seemed like you really struggled with the last 2, and you eventually, you said Warrior and Jim Herd, which, don't get me wrong, they both probably deserve a spot on the list, but I'd say that probably, if I had to fill out the other 2 guys, I'd say those 3 probably would be, the first 3 that you mentioned would definitely deserve to be on the list, but I'd probably put, for the last 2, Shawn Michaels and CM Punk on that list. And don't get me wrong, I like both guys. Shawn Michaels, not so much, but that's completely, that has nothing to do with anything. We're talking out of character here. And, Shawn Michaels has a pretty, when he was drinking and he was in his drugs in the early 90s and mid-90s, he has a pretty good reputation of being an asshole. There's a story about a buddy of mine met him in a hotel. That's a different story, too. And CM Punk, I know personally. I'm from Chicago, as is he, and, I've been watching him wrestle for about, coming, close to 10 years now since he started. And he'll tell you he's an asshole, which I guess is the, best kind of asshole you can be, if you know you are. But, you know, he'll come up to you and tell you he's an asshole. And he, don't get me wrong, I love Punk as a worker. I think he's a great worker. You know, he's one of my all-time favorite guys, you know, even though he's only been around for about 7 years. You know, but he's an asshole. That, you know. And I don't take it personally. You know, if I watch a guy in the ring and I like him in the ring, you know, I like him. But, you know, if he's an asshole, he's an asshole. And I don't think you've ever met Punk. You know, you live in Houston, I think, somewhere in Texas, Dallas, I forget. So, you know, I don't think you'd have any way of knowing, but he can be an asshole. And then Primus103 asked your opinion on the Montreal Screwjob, and I don't think there's anybody on YouTube who's never discussed this on the internet before. This is like probably the most widely talked about thing in the history of pro wrestling. In your opinion, you know, you're in the category of guys who, you know, Brett screwed Brett, and he should have just done the job and done his job and, you know, done what he was told, which that's a perfectly valid theory, and I think to a very full extent that it's true that, you know, he should maybe have been a bigger man about, you know, what happened and what was going on. But at that same time, I think a lot of people overlook what really happened. A lot of people don't realize that even 10 years ago, losing in your hometown is a much bigger deal than people make it out to be. Especially back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, losing in your hometown is a huge deal, because when you split from that company and you go to start your own company in your hometown, which is where a lot of guys base their promotions out of, people remember that loss, especially in the 80s, because there was no internet. So the only way if you knew if a guy won or lost is if you saw it live or you read it in a magazine. So especially in the 70s and 80s, it was a huge deal. 1997, the internet was around, but it wasn't as popular as it is today. And wrestling wasn't discussed as much as it is today. And, you know, and Raw was on TV, so people would have seen him lose. But there are people who only go to wrestling shows, don't watch it on TV, don't read about it, and whatever. So losing in your hometown is a much bigger deal than what people make it out to be. That's why Billy Jack Haynes left or almost left. I forget. I don't remember if he did leave or almost left in the 80s, because Vince wanted him to do the job in Portland, which is his hometown, and he was going to start a promotion out there, and he didn't want to lose in his hometown because everyone was going to remember it. So, you know, losing in your hometown can be a much bigger deal than a lot of people make it out to be. A lot of people say, you know, so what? You know, he was being conceited because, you know, he just didn't want to lose in front of, you know, in his town. But it is a lot, you know, a much bigger deal than what people make it out to be. And those are just a few things that I've seen, you know, that you've answered, that I've had different opinions about, and I just, you know, I really enjoy watching you, and I just wanted to, you know, give you some of my opinions, see what you thought, and hopefully you'll have time to respond either via video or comment or, you know, whatever. I know you're a busy man, you got a lot of questions, but hopefully you have time to check this out. See you later.